So today is October 25, 2025, and 43 years ago on this day was when the American government decided on invading the Spice Island of Grenada.
Early this morning, forces from 6 Caribbean democracies and the United States began a landing or landings on the island of Grenada in the Eastern Caribbean. We have taken this decisive action for 3 reasons. First, and of overriding importance, to protect innocent lives, including up to 1,000 Americans whose personal safety is, of course, my paramount concern. Second, to forestall further chaos. And third, to assist in the restoration of conditions of law and order and of governmental institutions to the island of Grenada.
So last week I did a video documenting the history of the assassination of Maurice Bishop and the invasion of Grenada. And I'm going to leave a link to that video in the comment section. And that is pretty much talking about a dark part of our Caribbean history that we don't really talk much about in the Caribbean, and that 6 Caribbean islands was a part of that invasion along with the American government. But in today's video, we have a very serious conversation to have, and this is about the decision that Deacon Mitchell is going to have to make coming up in this following week. And that is about the Americans wanting to install a radar system at the Maurice Bishop International Airport. Yes, the same airport that they invaded Grenada for over 42 years ago. This is the same airport in 2025 that they want to install a radar system to help their military actions on Venezuela. So this is something that we have been following all week. This has been pretty much the trending topic in the entire Caribbean for this week, and people are still waiting on the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, to address the nation. It was supposed to happen yesterday, but from what we are hearing, it was postponed until Tuesday. So what I'll be doing tonight at 9 o'clock, I'll be hosting a conversation, and people will have the opportunity to call in and to share their thoughts on what they think that the Prime Minister should do. And we saw this week the different Prime Ministers in the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. They met and they were pretty much there for Deacon Mitchell to give him advice on what to do. And one of the things that came from the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, is when he made a statement and said, look, whatever Deacon Mitchell decides to do, he's going to have his support. And I believe that that is the approach that all of us should take. And just having this conversation as, you know, a CARICOM community, like people from Barbados, St. Vincent, Jamaica, Antigua, Barbuda, wherever we're from in the Caribbean, we are watching this on the sideline. And at the end of the day, the people who are this is going to impact the most would be the people of Grenada. So I believe that this decision is their decision. And I just want to be here to support, moral support for our brothers and sisters in Grenada. And I tend to agree with the Prime Minister's statement, with Ralph Gonsalves' statement. I believe that whatever decision Deacon Mitchell makes, that we should support him, because this is not an easy decision. And we have been having this conversation all week, and there are some people that are just saying, you know what, no is no, just tell them no. And sometimes when you are on the sideline, it's easy to just say no means no. But the Prime Minister of Grenada have to take that little boy that is going to school, that little girl that is in grade 1, grade 2, and they want a bright future. The Prime Minister have to think about their future, because we see what happened with the Caribbean so far when we go up against the mighty powers. We see what happened in Haiti. We see what is happening in Cuba for over 60 years. And Jamaica experienced the same thing, and even Grenada experienced similar with the invasion. So this is not something that you can just get up and answer. And I believe that a referendum would be the best solution to this. But the reality is that a referendum, I don't know how fast you can put a referendum together. I know it can be a very expensive process. I'm not sure if it can be cheaper now, because we have technology now, so maybe it can be cheaper. So I would support a referendum and that the people would get to choose, because the Prime Minister is in a difficult position. Whatever the Prime Minister does, some people are going to be happy and some people are not going to be happy. So that is just a tough place to be. And as I said, this is pretty much having the entire nation, the future of the entire nation in the palm of your hands. And we see already how this administration is dealing with the Caribbean. We saw what they did with the Cuban nurses program that pretty much helped out the Caribbean a lot. We saw what they do with the tariffs on the Caribbean, which I know affected Grenada big time with exporting their spices to North America. So we already have an idea how this administration operates. And we don't want to get to a position where we push the Prime Minister to make a decision and he make the decision in no, and then we see like sanctions on Grenada, and when Grenada starts suffering, people that were pushing the Prime Minister in that direction, they turn their back and have the people of Grenada suffering. So that is what we don't want. And as I said, like we have had experiences, we have had enough experience in the Caribbean to draw on. And one of the things why this is very important to me also is that we have like a mindset in the Caribbean where we pretty much blame the victim, and it's something that we have been doing for decades. We see how people treat the people of Haiti. You talk about Haiti and you talk to some other Caribbean nationals and people tell you that the people in Haiti that they're bad and they are the one that they're corrupt and they did this to themselves, and they completely ignore the occupation, American occupying them, American going in and taking out their gold from the bank, taking all their natural resources. They completely ignore all of that, ignore different sanctions. They ignore the reparation that the people of Haiti had to pay back to the French government, and they turn around and blame the victims. We saw the same thing in Jamaica in the 1970s, in 1975, when Michael Manley was Prime Minister and wanted to chart his own path to get the people of Jamaica to another level. And we saw the sanctions from the American government. We saw Jamaica was one of the most peaceful countries in the world in the 60s, going into the early 70s. And overnight, Jamaica turned into a war zone. And after that, we got information from intelligence, from whistleblowers that were part of the CIA, that there was a covert operation in Jamaica and to destabilize the country. But Jamaicans and Jamaica got blamed for decades. Same thing happened in Cuba. So I don't want us to be in a position where the Prime Minister of Grenada have to make a difficult decision and then people push him in one direction, and when he goes in that direction, he's the one that gets blamed after. That is what we don't want. We don't want the opposition party to take advantage of this. I believe that this is one time when you should be Grenadian. You should forget about your political affiliation. You should forget about all of that and know that there's an outside force that is trying to rip you apart. And regardless if you're the opposition or you're the governing party, I believe that both parties should work together. And this would be very, very dangerous if the opposition party would try to take any mileage of this situation to get an advantage into the next election. That would be very dangerous and very distasteful. So that is just my concern about the decision that the Prime Minister is going to have to make in this coming week. But as I said, I am with Ralph Gonzalez. I believe that we should support the Prime Minister on any decision he makes. And why that is important too, because we know the Prime Minister, Dickon Mitchell, have a good relationship with the Venezuelan, the President of Venezuela and the people of Venezuela. And we know that Dickon Mitchell is not supporting the Trump administration in terms of an invasion of Venezuela or a regime change. Everybody knows that. So that is not rocket science. And I'm sure that Dickon Mitchell would have the number of the president of Venezuela to call and to say, you know what, this is a difficult position that I'm in. And if I have to put if I have to allow them to put the radar system in the airport, I hope that you can understand that the position that we're in. I know that he has the capability to do that because I know that they have a connection. Okay, so that was just my thoughts on what is going on in Grenada and what the people of Grenada, they are expecting to hear from their Prime Minister sometime in the coming week. And as I said, I'll be hosting a live tonight, and the WhatsApp number is on the screen, so feel free to call in and to share your thoughts on this. What would you advise the Prime Minister? What would you advise Dick and Mitchell to do in this situation? What would be your advice to the Prime Minister? So guys, sound off in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on this one.
You ever notice how the U.S. only calls it a dictatorship when it's a black country that's decided that they don't need saving? Because in 1979, this 35-year-old man led a revolution on his little island called Grenada. And when he tried to build something real, schools, healthcare, literacy, America called him a communist and made sure that he never got to finish what he started. Meet Maurice Bishop. He wasn't chasing power, he was chasing dignity. Bishop and his people threw out a corrupt leader named Eric Gary. He built free schools, made healthcare accessible, and launched adult literacy programs that nearly wiped out illiteracy on the island. He'd tell people that they must be the engineers of their own futures. That line hit different because he actually meant it. Grenada started looking like proof that a small black nation could thrive without begging the U.S. or Britain for approval. Then Bishop linked up with Cuba for doctors, teachers, engineers, not missiles. But Washington saw that as a threat. Reagan's team went on TV calling that little island a Soviet base because they were building airports to bring in tourism. Imagine that. An airport becomes a reason to invade? The real fear wasn't communism. It was a black country standing on its own 2 feet. But by '83, people inside Bishop's own party started turning on him. His deputy, Bernard Cord, accused him of being too popular and had him locked up. But the people weren't playing that. Thousands of Grenadians marched. They freed him and they carried him through the streets. And within hours, soldiers loyal to Cord opened fire. Bishop and several ministers were taken to Fort Rupert and executed against a wall. And 6 days later, the U.S. invaded under something called Operation Urgent Fury. They said it was to restore democracy. You don't bomb a tiny island filled of 100,000 people to restore anything. You bomb it to remind them who's in charge. After his death, people cried in the streets. He wasn't a dictator, he was hope. And the U.S. couldn't let that stand. So they buried him under headlines calling him a Marxist puppet. Meanwhile, the airport that he built, it still stands. They renamed it Maurice Bishop International Airport. Every plane that lands there touches the ground that he dreamed up. Maurice Bishop didn't die because he failed. He died because he made freedom look possible. Because every time a black nation tries to build something of its own, the empire shows up with bombs and a press release. They call it democracy, but really? It's fear. Fear of what happens when we stop asking for permission. Say his name. Maurice Bishop.